Today I'm reviewing The No Fear Sock Knitting by Denise DeSantis. So grab a cup of something and let's dive in. Hey there, fiber friends. Welcome back. If you are new here, my name is Melissa. I'm the dyer behind Rising Tide Fiber Company. And today I want to talk about the No Fear Sock Knitting. I mentioned this in an Instagram post. I had somebody asked me to review my thoughts on the book because I think it's beautiful, but they wanted more insight into my thoughts of the details of the book. So I thought I'd do a quick little video and just kind of tell you my thoughts. And so you may know Denise as Earthtone Girls here on YouTube or over on all the socials. Denise has YouTube video tutorials called No Fear Sock Knitting, where she has a video for just about everything. So this is an extension of those videos. For me, it feels very much like an extension of her channel. And quite honestly, the photography even feels like an extension of her channel, but also an extension of her Instagram feed, her channel. It is a stunning book from head to toe. Now, this one is published by David and Charles, and it retails here in the United States for $24.99 and in the UK £16.99. There are 10 chapters in this book. And so the very first chapter is called Getting Started. And so really, this is just kind of talking about what do I need in order to get started? Like, what kind of supplies are you going to need in order to do some sock knitting? And so she's going to talk about choosing a type of needle. She's going to talk about the different types of yarn, whether that's indie dyed sock yarn or commercial yarn, the different types of fiber, the concept between having nylon or no nylon. She's also going to go into the architecture of a sock, which when I have taught sock knitting, it's one of the first things I kind of try to talk through, because I feel like socks for new knitters who have been around other knitters sometimes get the impression that socks are really challenging, when really they're beautiful. You go around and around and around, and really the most challenging or interesting part of the sock is probably the heel construction, and that's not hard. A lot of times it's just a matter of finding your preference and knitting the sock. If you understand the architecture of it, it makes it so much smoother. Then she moves into chapter 2, where she's talking about the methods of knitting socks. So she is going to talk about managing stitches on the needles. Are you going to use a 9-inch circular? Are you going to use double pointed? Are you going to use magic loop? Are you going to use 2 circular needles? So she kind of talks through that, and if you're using more than one needle or your magic loop, like why certain stitches are located on which needle. Then she goes into the whole art of toe up versus top down. Which team do you want to be on? And then she moves into the planning stage. And so she really kind of talks you through, how do you prepare to knit a pair of socks? And so she's going to talk about, she's going to reference yarn and needles again. She's going to talk about gauge, different abbreviations. She talks about ease, because if you are a seasoned sock knitter, you know that negative ease is important. This is where she also talks about measuring your foot, so that between the ease and your foot measurement, you can choose an accurate size. Then she gets into the knitting part of it. So how do you cast on? And she walks you through the long tail cast on, the German twisted cast on, the Turkish cast on, Judy's magic cast on. So multiple ways of casting on your sock. And I think for her, she talks about the long tail and the German twisted for cuff down, and specifically the Turkish and the Judy's magic for toe up. Then she moves into the rest of the sock. So she talks about what's your desired length of your leg, the tube part for our foot, when to start knitting your heel. She's going to talk about the different cuff options, and she has several of those. And then where she has a chapter on nothing but heels, because she thinks the heel is the part of the sock that is the most fun, where a lot of people feel like that's the scary part. So she's going to talk about the different customizations you can do for heels if you're knitting cuff down, and what are those customized heels you can do if you're knitting toe up. And her diagrams are beautiful. It is a stunning book on the inside. I think her explanations are really well done. And then after you get through the basic fundamentals of the different heels, she talks about how do you avoid holes, particularly like at gussets. How do you fix other heel issues you might run into? And then the next chapter, she moves on to toes. And so she does talk about some different options, like if you have the wedge toe, and for many of us, we can do that toe up or cuff down, and she talks about the two of those. She talks about rounded toes, which she gives instructions for those for cuff down and toe up. And then she also talks about anatomical toes, which I've done one sock. I have not done its mate, but I have done an anatomical toe. It challenges my brain a little bit, so it's not my go-to toe. And I've not done its mate, so I can't tell you how they wear. But she gives you that option to do anatomical toes, and then she moves on to bind off, to block your socks, not to block your socks. Do you wash them? She has a whole chapter on tips and tricks, and then she has the last chapter is ultimately her patterns. She has No Fear Shorty socks, which I think are beautiful. She chose a really beautiful yarn for those. Yeah, she chose Tea for Two and Legacy Fiber Arts. She has the same sock, but in a toe up version. She moves on to a similar styled sock, but it's DK weight. And she has a simple vanilla sock in here. She has another ankle sock, but this one has a garter tab for the cuff, which is a really beautiful sock. She has, I think this one's really lovely. I think it's a seed stitch sock. And then she has a sock where you're using two different colors, but you're doing helical knitting. So maybe you've never done helical knitting, which for a lot of knitters, they do it when they're using the same color of yarn, but different skeins. Like if you're knitting a sweater in, say, an indie dyed yarn, and we all know the beauty of indie dyed yarn is two no two skeins are ever identical. Well, when you helical knit, it helps you alternate between the skeins so that they just blend in smoothly. If you've never done helical knitting, helical socks is a really great way to practice that technique at a really low expectations. So I think that's really fun. I think that would make a really great class. And then she has one that explores a garter heel, which is different. I think most of us are so used to others, you know, either shadow wrap heels, or like I'm a big fan of a heel flap, traditional heel flap and gussets. So she has some basic fundamentals sort of like as an appendix in the back. And I think it's a beautiful book. I think if you are new to knitting, I think if you are a seasoned knitter, I think there's a little bit of something for everybody in this book. And the beauty of it is if you have never knit socks before, not only do you have this gorgeous book to have physically, although you can get an electronic copy. I think I saw on Amazon where you could get an e-copy of it. She also has the support on her YouTube channels of everything that's in this book, technique-wise. So if you have not grabbed a copy of No Fear Sock Knitting by Denise DeSantis, otherwise known as Earth Tone Girls, go and get yourself a copy. It is a beautiful book. It will be a tremendous resource in your knitting library. And until next time, friends, happy knitting.